Welcome to the SIWIKE Podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SIWIKE Podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. We're here with our new guest host, Gloria. How are you doing, Gloria?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So Gloria comes to us with a background in business and personal training and fitness and a whole bunch of other things. So wondering if you can share a little bit of what you're up to these days. What are you doing now?
Definitely. First of all, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to be sharing my story with whoever's watching. I am currently a personal trainer and group class instructor of 2 years. And before then, as Luki mentioned, I was a graduate from the business management program at UTSC.
Sounds good. So if we can rewind back in time and ask, what was Gloria like as a kid? So if you can share any fond childhood memories, what were you like growing up?
I'm not sure I have any fond memories.
Uh-oh.
But I was a very typical type A person in the sense where I was a high achiever. I still am today. And I am a very competitive person, especially academically back then. I really wanted to be the best in class, the best at everything. You know, that's my goal in life, was to be the best at studying. So unfortunately, that was my only purpose or objective growing up. And I didn't really have much going on in my life. So most of my life choices were decided for me. My hobbies that I would take on, the friends I would make, how my time would be spent. One of those hobbies was ballet. And I actually was really enjoying ballet. Something about music and movement just brings me joy. It never changed to this day. I still enjoy moving around and listening to music. I actually developed a really intense appreciation for jazz music and instrumental music due to that, and also family influences. But in general, I did not really have a clear direction or a strong sense of identity growing up. As a kid, if, the only thing that you could do outside of your studies was, let's say dancing, you would be very obsessed over it. I was very obsessed with the art of dancing. And to the point where I feel like I could be a ballerina when I grow up. But that option was not viable as I entered high school, because I have to give that up too, to solely focus on studying. Right. Naturally, I became very introverted, very shy, anxious, and lack a lot of interpersonal skills. So looking back, it's actually quite funny how as a kid to this moment right now, my job actually pushed me to become a different person. I became a bit more confident. I never thought I would be able to talk to a camera right now. And you could say I made a 180-degree change.
That's awesome. I'd love if we digged a little bit more into that life. So it sounded like as a kid, you mentioned life choices were kind of made for you. So thou shalt become a ballerina, or at least do ballet, not necessarily be a ballerina. So was that mostly kind of like the day-to-day where it was maybe grade school ballet, that sort of thing? Was that kind of the routine?
Yes. Basically, I actually took on more stuff besides dancing because my mom wanted me to be more feminine. She told me I have to, take on painting, violin, piano, ballet, some singing as well, but nothing stuck. Only ballet, because that's the only thing I could do while I'm moving around. So yes, I did that while studying on the side. So, studying and doing this on the side. So, it's like an escape for me besides, reading a book. So, yeah.
And can you walk us through a little bit about kind of the decision or the process to go from like dancing and all these hopes and ambitions to be a ballerina, and then saying, no, focus on studies, school is important? So, like, was there a big conversation on that, or was it pretty like you just got to do it?
No, it was just the choice was made already. My mom made the choice already, so that you can't do this anymore. You can't do anything else but focus on being the best at school. So I had to cut off every single thing, and I became a very sad and just boring person. Yeah, but I think something about ballet brought me back into fitness in a sense. So I'm glad that I came back from that.
Okay. So in high school, it sounds like you were basically turtled in, right? You were more shy, introverted, basically heads down in books, studying for exams and things like that. And then
Yes.
you ultimately went into business. Like, what was that path like? Was it automatically decided you will go into business, or was there a lot of Asian parents want you to become like doctors or engineers or something as alternatives? Like, what
You
was
already
that
know.
process like when you were in high school?
Yes, so the choice of going into business was not my own choice. I was
Hmm.
there, but my dad was next to me. He made the choice.
Okay.
I was there. So he thought it was a practical option. And I agreed with him. I think it was practical, it's versatile to use a business degree anywhere you want to use it. Even now I can
Sure.
use it. So I went into business. And during my studies, I didn't really enjoy the degree at all, but I was very committed to completing the degree or the program that I just had to finish it. I had to finish it. Um, the idea of being a criminal lawyer actually came to me as well when I was studying, and I took a course on criminal law. It was really interesting to me, but I didn't see myself being a criminal lawyer for the rest of my life. So when I discovered health and fitness during a difficult time, I found out how powerful it could be for someone who is struggling. And I thought, why not turn this passion into a serious career, which I did. So I'm glad that I was able to actually get out there and try something new instead of sticking to the script.
Sounds good. I'd love if we walk through a little bit more of that, the details in the journey. So you, well, business was chosen for you. So in high school, thou shalt get a business degree. It was kind of the credence from on high from dad.
Yes.
And was the choice of business school an option, or did you just pick whatever he decided?
Basically, he wanted me to go to U of T because my brother graduated from U of T. So I
Okay.
got to follow his steps.
Okay.
And I think U of T is a good school. It's a great school, actually, one of the top schools in Canada
Yeah.
and the world. So there was not a problem for me to apply and go for that. And I'm happy I got in. I'm happy that I got the degree from U of T. Yeah, but then he wanted me to go into criminal law because he thinks being a lawyer would be, the best option out of there, his
Mm-hmm.
option. So I wanted to pursue that as well. It was interesting, but just not as a career.
Right. And sounds like, again, we're trying to get into the path where, okay, the path is laid out for you. You have to go here, but at least now you have a little bit of a choice where you decided not to follow a little bit of that criminal law path. And well, I know you as someone who participated quite a bit in some of the student clubs.
Yes.
So was that like part of the plan? Was that your parents coaching, or was that you?
It was actually me.
Okay.
I actually really wanted to get into MESA, Management and Economic Student Association, because I found it really interesting that I could have resources and opportunities to do something instead of just sitting in a room and looking at books. So I was a really anxious person, as I mentioned before. So during the interviews, I was like, oh, I'm so scared. I'm not going to get in. There are so many people better than me. But I got in, and I was really excited for the opportunities to work with the Department of Management to create learning opportunities for our students and for other companies to connect with the students, right? So I did the best I could with the resources that I had. Unfortunately, during the time when I was in the club, there were not a lot of people who were working with me. They wanted to do their own projects, so it was hard for me to bring ideas into fruition. So,
well, I mean, that's always a path that folks have to go through. And for the introverts that are out there, so the studious lot that are listening and trying to get really good marks, but they realize, you know what, maybe a student club, maybe something extracurricular is something that I should pursue. Like, what was that process like? Because it must have been a little bit daunting, as you said, you're a little bit more shy to, I don't know, submit the applications, go through the interview process, and actually now run I don't know, a little part of the club and the community. Can you describe us a little bit about what helped you kind of get into and through that process?
Definitely. So I was making connections with other students who were in the club before and also who are trying to get in the club at the same time as I was. So by talking about different experiences, I was able to get a better idea as in how people got in and what they did and what I could do as well. So that kind of mentally prepared me to get into whatever I want to get into, and also just to practice a lot of speaking, communication, and take deep breaths. I know it sounds kind of corny, but when you are anxious about talking or meeting people, you really have to control that feeling inside before you can communicate with other people and not stutter. So I was learning a lot about that before even applying to the interviews or applying to be joining the club. So if you have a difficulty in talking, practice public speaking or go on. The communication course that we had at UTSC was really good too. I learned how to take out the fillers when you talk, and that was really important as you try to come off as a bit more assertive and a bit calm. That really helped me a lot in my interviews, and also obviously interview practice. That's important as well.
Yeah, it sounds like the first step was kind of surrounding yourself with the folks that are doing similar things and can guide you along a little bit. So those a little bit ahead of you, or those wanting to be on the same journey, that can be helpful because when you have like-minded people, then you feel less alone. And then maybe you had some of them come help you practice with public speaking, even breathing, or things like that.
Actually, like deep breath in, deep breath out.
Yeah, and to do that together and communally makes it just a little bit less cheesy because then you feel the purpose and you see the like-mindedness. So now you got into some of the clubs and you're kind of breaking out of your shell a little bit, and then you eventually, probably through a different path, but ended up traveling alone as part of your studies. Can you describe a little bit about that process?
Definitely. I think it's a really important moment in my life because I would never thought I could travel alone. You know, my parents always tells me about all the danger that I could encounter, how I could get kidnapped or killed. And so it's not really encouraging for me at all because I was already anxious. However, I took that step because I knew I had to do something different, something I've never done before. So I actually went to Romania for an internship through SIWIKE, through UTSC. I was there for 3 months, and I was helping a startup company with their online business development. Okay. So mostly on the computer, emailing people, interacting with customers or clients on the floor, having events with them. And it was fun and a bit of a cultural shock, if I have to say, because people there were not used to seeing foreign people. So I just had to be a bit more, focused on what I had to do instead of, getting too distracted, and also don't take things too personally when people say certain things. But and during the last weekend, I actually went to Prague by myself, and it was a really last minute decision I made, and it was really scary because I was already in Romania alone. Now I'm gonna go to Prague even more alone, outside of work, no coworkers, no friends. I made only myself, and I only had a backpack with me. I messed up the Airbnb booking, and I actually was homeless for a night. They kicked me out because I was supposed to leave earlier that day, but I thought I had until the end of the day. So I was homeless for a night, and luckily I met this girl the day before. She actually is American. She went to Prague for an internship, and I asked her if I can stay over for one night. So I did, and during that night, I could not even, take a shower. I didn't have anything with me in my bag because I was going to shower at the Airbnb. So It was a really treacherous trip. I didn't have any data, I didn't have any Wi-Fi or service. So I had to figure out my way around with no help. But during that difficult time, I learned to rely on myself because I really had no time to panic. I had to think on my feet and make a quick decision to know where I'm going next. So I found that it was actually a really eye-opening experience, and I became a lot more independent, and I know that if I want to do something, I can.
So what I took from that is if you want an eye-opening experience, mess up your Airbnb booking and basically be homeless for a night. And then especially if you have no data or Wi-Fi, but you will learn so much about yourself and how to rely on yourself and grow in that. And obviously try not to do that on purpose because that would be a really, pretty challenging thing. But realizing that if it does happen to you, that there are ways to improve. And I like what you said, where you almost could not panic, right? Because you had to kind of move forward and figure that part out. I'd love if you shared a little bit on kind of that decision to go there. So before you were a little bit introverted, you connected with people, you were sort of getting out of your shell now doing these student group things. But now this is traveling alone, like not even with friends, family, or whatever. And you mentioned that you knew that you had to do something different. Like what was that feeling like, or what was that calling compulsion, that thing that made you realize that you had to do this? Like, can you talk to us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, for sure. It's more so like a strong feeling that when an opportunity comes to you, you have to take it. It's just something that I felt like I had to do, because otherwise I would have never done it in my life. When I was growing up, I never had the option or the opportunity to go outside of my comfort zone. So when I'm in university, this opportunity that came to me, it has to come for a reason. There has to be a way for me to take advantage of this situation to grow. So I took that opportunity, like I did with a career change. So I think that even though it's a big and scary step, you really have to try and take that step. It could be scary, it could fail, but at least you know what you can do and what you try again next time, basically.
Yeah. So it seems like it's a little bit of like listening to your gut and yourself, because probably the rationality is like that doesn't make sense. You shouldn't be doing that, versus like, you know what, it's almost like it's pulling you and calling you to do that. So
exactly. And fun fact, because of that whole situation, and also because I have been traveling a bit more now with me or my friend, I got a tattoo that says, why not? Because I need to remind myself, why not do something different?
Yeah. That's awesome, because I was chatting with someone and they asked, why something? And then I asked them, why not? And they were like, yeah, why not? So I think that is possibly a good motto for folks to take a look at. So, all right. So you now have this eye-opening experience, and you're back safe in Toronto, and then you're closer to graduation, right? So what was that experience like? Was that more, again, set up for you because you're not like in a business role, right? Yeah. You're in personal training. So how did that happen?
Yeah. So when I discovered personal training, I decided to take it one step further and go into it as a career. I didn't actually tell my friends about it because I know they wouldn't be the most supportive. But I did spend a whole year studying the course to become certified. I've never been more focused in my life. I didn't go to watch movies. I didn't go to watch TV shows. I didn't go to hang out with friends. And to be fair, it was also COVID, so I was kind of already inside. Sure. But I spent the whole year studying for it, and then I applied to be a trainer. I was very anxious because I thought there was only people out there who are so much more experienced. I wouldn't be picked for sure. But then again, you never know if you never try. And I did get hired, and now I'm still working at the same place for 2 years. So yeah, that was a choice of my own. And I was very happy that I was able to make that for myself and not for anyone else, and not think about too much about other people's opinions of what I'm doing with my life. So I think that's what's important for people to consider.
Sounds good. I love what you said about you never know if you never try, right? So obviously it reminds me of that Wayne Gretzky quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So it's very similar. But I'd love if you share, if you're willing to, a little bit on the conversation with mom and dad, right? So you're kind of holed up studying for this personal trainer. Hopefully you're, I don't know, trying to get a job at one of the banks or the consulting firms is probably what or law firms is probably what your parents are thinking. Yes. And then you spring in, surprise, personal trainer. Like, how does that conversation happen?
Yeah, so my dad was actually out of the country for business, all over the place. So I was, glad I didn't have to explain to him why I was studying human anatomy and body mechanics, which was very interesting, by the way. I told him, as my cover story, is I was searching for a job because of COVID. It's hard to search for a job. So for a whole year, I was searching for a job. But in fact, I was studying for the course. And then after I was done and I got hired, I still didn't tell my dad, but my mom knew, and she knew it was my choice, and she didn't really say much about it. And then afterwards, my dad knew too, because he had to at some point. He didn't really have any comments straight up too harsh to my face, but he was sliding some comments like, "Are you looking for a job yet? How's the job search going?" Those questions. So I understand his concerns. And even my brother would tell me that, you have to get a sustainable job like everyone else, 9 to 5. And I understand where they're coming from because they're used to that structure. However, I really value the idea of flexibility, and I really want to be able to control my own time. I think I know when I work best. So if I were to stick to like a 9 to 5, it might not be as optimal for me. So that's how I know that I want to pursue this. But I'm not saying no ever to other opportunities. I'm still searching for different ways to grow and learn, but just not the way that they would wish for me to do.
Yeah, what I heard from that is at the end of the day, your parents want you to be successful. They want you to be happy. And sometimes their idea of success and happiness is the business or the law or the whatever degree. And if you're able to show them kind of your dedication and your commitment to a different path, they're usually accommodating for that. Now, I'm sure there'll be a few comments here and there in order to poke at it. But once you can share that, you know what, this is what I'm doing. And if you have that innate feeling that this is what you feel that you're supposed to be, well, take that shot and hopefully that'll turn well. But you might want to just double check it just to make sure that it's not like a fad type of thing that's happening versus it's truly something that you want to do. So that kind of starts bringing us to present day when you're now personal training pretty much full time. So what were some of the learnings in that journey? Was it as you expected, as you were taking that year studying through the books, or were there other things that like, oh, I didn't account for this part?
Yeah. So the interaction with the clients was the most eye-opening part for me because, as I mentioned before, I was very introverted and really shy. I didn't really have much interactions with people, but now I'm jumping into a customer-centric industry where you have to deal with people every day, and even some people who are less friendly, I would say. So you have to learn to be smiling at all times, to be gracious at all times. So I've learned to do that. And patience is something that I have learned, really important thing in this industry, patience, and obviously professionalism. But yeah, something that I learned was how to be more confident, especially public speaking. I've learned that the idea of talking to someone is more so to create an experience for your audience. It's not about you, but about what you want them to experience. So that actually helps me manage my anxiety a bit better. And I'm able to talk to a crowd much easily compared to before. And I learned human, anatomy mechanics on the textbook, which is really interesting. But when you actually translate that into in-person training, you don't really use those terms as much as you thought you would, because people don't really understand those professional terms. So you have to put them in layman terms and make things simpler for them. So I thought I would have to use things like, abduction of the hip joint, adduction, or flexion. I thought I would have to do most of those like explanations, but then I was told to not be so technical. So it was really fun to learn how things actually work when you actually get into the role.
Okay. And were there any particular things that helped you like learn how to communicate more confidently or better, or was it just doing it and doing it again and doing it again that helped you do it?
Basically, practice makes perfect, just like anything else in life. Practice, practice, practice. Actually, I scratched that. Practice makes progress. Not perfect, makes progress. Yes. I actually had to go through a test before I could do group classes. I had to train all the trainers in a room. I had to project my voice really loud over the music, and they were all trainers in a room. So they would like intentionally disturb the class to see how you would handle it. And they would have to test your projection and how you handle different things. So that was part of the training that I had to go through, and also diaphragm breathing. When they put a weight on your stomach and you have to talk while having that weight on your body. So things like that helped me with my voice projection, and then from there I was able to be more confident when I talk, because then I become a bit more loud. And when you're loud, people have to listen to you.
Sure.
So yeah, that was part of the training and the communication part as well when I go through the test.
That's awesome. So I'm sure you'll continue to develop in your learnings from either the communication side or biomechanics side or what have you. And you've already shared a whole bunch of SWIKE stuff I wish I knew earlier before. But if there were any other ones that you haven't gone into or ones that you want to emphasize a little bit more, do you have like one or two that you want to share?
Yeah, so I think I basically talked about almost all of those things, but one more thing would be to not let other people's opinions or prejudice control the course of your life, because you are the main protagonist of your story. So whatever choices you have to make only have to make sense to you, and really not anyone else, because you live your own life. Right. I never thought that I would be someone who would go against the current, but I'm doing it right now, and I'm actually shocked. Looking back, if I was 10 years old talking to me right now, I would never have thought I could do this profession. I never thought I could maybe go on a stage and do public speaking without feeling super anxious. Still a bit anxious, but not too anxious. I never thought I could do that. But, never say never. Take that step. Take the leap of faith. And one last thing is try to go leave the herd, because only when you leave the herd will you see a different perspective. If you're in the same group all the time, you only see one thing, because everyone around you is going to frame that in your head. But once you leave that herd, you would see things for yourself, maybe differently. There are different ways to solve a problem and different path to a destination.
Yeah, I think those are all great words of wisdom. Some of them are easier said than done for other folks, because obviously if you have the folks around you, aka mom and dad, kind of projecting the choices to go against them and leaving that specific herd can be very daunting. But you're a testament to someone who went through that process and is doing something different and able to do it. And I like what you said about the speaking part, where you are still nervous, right? And I think folks have this kind of false notion that when you're confident, like you don't have nervousness or like anxiety and stuff like that. No, you still feel it, but you still do it anyway. Right? Sure. So that's kind of the clear path. And for folks that have those kind of either burning or kind of fledgling passions or interests inside them, then maybe spending a little bit of time to cultivate it would be great. So thanks so much for sharing that, SWIKE. And I'm sure there's a couple that we could dive a little bit deeper into. But if folks want to hear a little bit more about what you're going to be doing, I guess, in the next little while, so some of your future aspirations, and if folks want to connect with you, where could they do so?
For sure. You can reach me at LinkedIn at my name, Gloria Sheen, Gloria, last name Shen. I also have social media, but let me know if you want that through LinkedIn first. Just message me on LinkedIn and I will talk to you there.
Sounds good. And what are some of the things that folks can look forward to learning more about you or seeing you do in the future? Are there any projects upcoming or any things that you're going to be up to in the next little while?
Yeah, definitely more training. You're seeing a bit more, that training side. I'm really obsessed with, lifting weights right now. If you don't know, I'm a trainer. But definitely I'm focused on building my business, building clientele, which is what I'm doing right now through working with different gyms and having my own clientele. So that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to doing, and accepting other opportunities for other projects as well. But yeah, I want to just spread this out there and let people know that you can do anything you want to do, and do not neglect your own health, because it's really important to show up for yourself, because if you don't show up for yourself, you'll not be able to live your best life. You'll not be able to show up for someone else. So, I just want to leave you with that.
Sounds good. Yeah, health is super important. So yes. If you need help with that, then reach out to Gloria. And thanks so much for sharing your SWIKE and your story. And hopefully we'll have you back for a future episode.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Gloria.
Thanks for joining us on the SWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Luki Danu, LUKIDANU, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.